Hello. What a year it's been. Together we've explored outer space derelicts, creepy ghost-filled mansions, the smallest scale Warhammer and the largest scale D&D dragons. We've been to the cinema in 40k and we've delved into the greatest dungeon board game ever made. 6 times. And through all of that, I've maybe made the odd mistake, missed out the odd detail, or forgotten to turn my microphone on properly. But here I am, completing my 2022 Addendum, or a list of all of the things that I missed and should have talked about at the time. And if you stick around, I'll even tease a little bit of what I'm working on for 2023. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and today we're going to discover just how many cats I missed. Before we get into corrections and omissions, I just wanted to say thank you. I was not sure how this YouTube experience was going to go for me. I started this channel because I have been collecting these games and experiences and stories all of my life, and I absolutely love them. I wanted to find a way to share that with other people who are interested in and love and wanted to learn about them too. So thank you for choosing to spend any of your precious time with me. I am really grateful and truly humbled. Right, let's get started setting the record straight with my first video, A History of Games Workshop Cats. This was an attempt to identify and talk about all of the major cat miniatures and stories and bits of lore that Games Workshop have produced over the years for all of their games. I think I did okay, but as you'll see from the comments, there were quite a few great examples that I did miss, unfortunately. In my research for another video, I discovered a cute little cat that was included in the FS33 blister pack of Witches items. This set from the Citadel Fantasy Specials range included a broom, a skull, an ornate statue, and what appears to be a big plate, along with, of course, a Witch's familiar, a little cat. Even more littler than that, though, is the cat that viewer and awesome Citadel Miniatures collection owner Billy Bunter mentioned to me, the Vorpal Kitty. Or at least that's what it was called in the US, because in the UK it was known as the Killer Chihuahua. Billy was actually generous enough to send me one of these adorably small kitties. And here you can see it alongside my sleeping cat Martha for scale. This mini is truly miniature. It is so small. It might even be one of the smallest miniatures ever produced by Games Workshop. I don't think I can do it justice. I mean, you can barely see it. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you, Billy, for sending me this. I treasure it. It's amazing. David Ober 6702 was quite right to point out that whilst discussing some of the cats of Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, I didn't bring up Renald, the god of thieves and tricksters in the old world. A frequent omen and augury of Renald are different types of cats, and seeing one in peculiar circumstances can presage a turn in your luck, for good or ill. Commenters Alessi3862, Henk Sutin and Barbara Panphili84 raised the Ogre Moor tribes and their ferocious frost sabres. As Barbara Panphili84 mentions, the first version of the sabres are suspiciously reminiscent of Diego from the Ice Age movies. In the Gnarlwood Underworld's warband, Hrothgorn's Mantrappers, we get to see another frost sabre in the form of Thrafnir, a particularly good boy who doesn't resemble any animated characters at all. Alessi3862 also called out that the Wormspat from Warhammer Underworlds included a very peculiar looking cat-like creature that was probably not feeling too well. I talked about Neferata and her shadow Bastet, but as Impetio Go Guy 3570 pointed out, I didn't talk about the Larmian vampire that was released both on foot, with a cat running about her feet, and mounted, with a cat on her lap. Basil Gothikovic 8233 mentioned that there were plenty of cats detailed in the Age of Sigmar novels, and of particular note is the god the mother of all cats. In the Josh Reynolds novel Soul Wars, this ancient deity is said to have left her children, the cats, in every one of the mortal realms, where they went on to thrive. Not exactly a real cat, but 3 is not a letter raised the ten-tailed cat, the most notorious gathering place for thieves, raconteurs, and tellers of tall tales. Stories from this inn of ill repute were told in comic strips in Warhammer Monthly and Inferno magazine, and later collected in a couple of volumes and an omnibus. Some of these stories are written by the best GW writers of the time, so I am now seeking out a copy of my own so that I can indulge in some of this classic crime capery. My 3-part series on Warhammer Quest was a lot of fun to make, and I am really pleased that people are enjoying it and in some cases learning from it. In fact, I am always learning new information about Warhammer Quest. You might recall that after looking at the adventure packs, the Lair of the Orc Lord and the Catacombs of Terror, I investigated rumours around the fabled Lost Quest expansions for Skaven and Chaos Dwarves, but it didn't seem conclusive. But then, Schrodinger's Transcat commented that there was a mention of the rumoured 3rd and 4th adventure packs in a White Dwarf article, and they were absolutely right. I was disappointed in myself for missing it, but in White Dwarf 187, Andy Jones confirms that following the Orc and Undead expansions, there were plans already in motion for a Skaven-themed pack that was to be written by Dean Bass, and a Chaos Dwarf pack that Andy Jones was working on. Dan Roberts 007 even got a chance to ask Andy Jones about that Chaos Dwarf expansion in person at KublaCon, and he confirmed that he had actually written the whole thing up. It is brilliant to hear that these rumours were actually based on fact, because if nothing else, it means that that adorable Skaven mechanic is legit. It's not been commented on, but I did neglect to mention in my video that there were a few other card-based expansions for the original Warhammer Quest. There were 3 decks of treasure cards available, each including 54 new treasure cards written by Andy Jones. There was also a set of blank encounter and monster cards released, which could be used to build your own randomised events for your dungeons, and to make it simple to add your favourite monsters from your own collections. When it came to Silver Tower, there were a couple of things that Tzeentch had convinced me just didn't exist, but thankfully, untainted commenters were able to pry open my eyes. Toxic Hobbit UK and Sidrian8323 commented that the Chaos Familiar Slop, the fishy fella, was inspired by either 80s Ian Miller art or the leitmotif from Mordheim. The fish was something of a theme in Mordheim, and according to the game's designer, Thomas Perinthe, represents the souls of the people of Mordheim, being fought over by Chaos and Sigmar. My timeline for Silver Tower designer James Hewitt's career was also a little off, as I had incorrectly placed his time with Mantic after his time with GW. This was noted by user EE8XZ1RQ5V, who correctly pointed out that Hewitt worked on Dreadball at Mantic before joining GW's design team, and then he consulted with Mantic on Hellboy whilst working for his own company Needy Cat Games, having left Games Workshop for good in 2017. Finally, I had forgotten that there were in fact power-specific beastmen well into 7th edition, a fact that thankfully Lord Boofhead 1 did remember. In my video on the history of the Emperor's Tarot from the 40k universe, there was a more recent bit of lore around the tarot that I missed out. JJ Duke mentioned that in the Aaron Dembski-Bowden's The First Heretic, published as part of the Horus Heresy series in 2010, it is revealed the tarot was in fact invented by Lorgar Aurelian, the Primarch of the Wordbearers, before he fell to Chaos. One of my most recent videos, The History of Space Crusade, has been really well received, and I am so grateful for it. But that does not mean that it is immune to the corrections. A number of commenters were quite right to call me out on my Necron timings. I mistakenly said that they first appeared in the 3rd edition core rulebook as an unknown species in 1998. And whilst that image is in the book, it did come later in 1998. It was in fact the 2nd appearance of the new Necrons. In February of the same year, White Dwarf included a free Necron miniature and rules for these new robotic foes for the 2nd edition of 40k. When they said they'd be back, I should have taken them more seriously. Dan Roberts had some more great tidbits to share about Space Crusade as well, noting that the Chaos Androids also got the epic treatment just like their Dreadnought pal. So for now, I think that's everything I've missed across the first 11 videos I've made for the channel. That's about 3.5 hours of content, and I'm really proud of everything I've put out, but I know that there's more for me to learn. I've enjoyed the research and the writing, presenting, editing, lighting, all of that stuff, but I think there are things that I can improve on, and I've got some really exciting plans going into 2023. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversations and comments and discussions that have been sparked by these videos, and I hope that that continues, and I hope I can find new topics that really bring out that discussion. I think it's just a fantastic time to share and talk about all this stuff. I am aiming to keep up with my weekly release schedule in the new year. So far, I have released at least one video every week on a Tuesday afternoon. In order to keep that up and make it sustainable, I'm going to be exploring some different types of videos that I can put into the mix as well. So I'm going to take a look at some actual plays and playthroughs, run-throughs of games that I really enjoy, and I want to try and do that in an innovative way that kind of brings it to life a little bit more. That's going to be a bit of trial and error and experimentation, so hopefully you can stick with me as I try and find the ways that I can do that. I think more in the commentary space, the presentation of the details and the rules, and also the locations in which I film will all contribute to making those some quite interesting videos once I'm able to get them off the ground. I also want to look at the development of lore and special characters and scenarios through the history of Games Workshop's games. So where we've seen multi-generational characters, how has that changed and evolved from game to game to game? I have loved making the deep dive developmental histories of games. So there are some big titles I'm hoping to tackle in the new year. I'm currently working on one of Games Workshop's 1983 fantasy board games, a true classic that's still going strong today. I'm looking at Space Crusade's older cousin. I am also looking at probably the only rival for Warhammer Quest's dungeon crawling crown, the ultimate fantasy board game for many people. Alongside that, I'm going to be exploring and playing some oldhammer scenarios that are still as amazing today as they were when they were first published. I'm also going to be recording a few conversations with some of my best gaming friends about our experiences and memories of all of these games coming out, and really just talking about how much fun we had playing them. And I'm going to be looking at some other non-Games Workshop games, some role-playing games that really had a major influence on me and helped to turn me into the gamer I am today. So thank you again for all of the views, likes and subscribes. It has been so amazing to talk with you in the comments. I really hope that you continue and find other things to share with me. It's great hearing about your memories. It's great having those conversations. And as you've seen, I miss things sometimes when I'm talking about these detailed topics. There's so much cool stuff out there. So I really do want to hear more from you. What did I miss? What can I cover next? Where should we take this channel as we evolve it into the new year? I think it's going to be really exciting. I hope that you can join me. I am Jordan. This is Jordan Sorcery, and bring on 2023. I just wanted to see if there's anyone still watching these. Leave a comment if you watched this secret bit.